Schizophrenia is not schizophrenia as such.
It is pridefulness.
Yes, in this case, there are other causes hidden in the games of consciousness, although the diagnosis may be schizophrenia.
In fact, it is very important for a person who follows the spiritual path not to be afraid. I remember a story when Peter walked on the water, and he really wanted to go towards Christ on the water. So he walked. A strong wind rose up. He got scared and began to sink. And then he said, "Lord, save me." Jesus said, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" And this is actually not a literal story. A person walking on the water, violating the laws of physics. I guess it is probably an allegory.
An absolute allegory.
Of a person's spiritual path.
You know what I'll tell you? 99% of all believers who listen to this allegory understand that this didn't happen in fact. But everyone keeps lying and playing a believer. How can we doubt it? After all, it was Jesus Christ, right? He actually walks on water. Jesus Christ gave these examples purely as examples in an allegorical way. So if he walked on water, for example, what is water? Water is another world, and he described and compared the spiritual world to the waters of the ocean, to water and so on, meaning something different lives there. It is eternal there. So you walk on water and many such examples.
And what is this wind? It turns out that it is life circumstances which you have to go through, or doubts.
Of course, these are doubts. You shouldn't pay attention to these doubts and
fears. But
fears.
Go towards Christ, who is waiting for you now.
Of course, if you love me, if you trust me, come to me, he said. Just come to me, I'm waiting for you, my friend.
Don't doubt it.
Of course, just put aside your doubts and come to me. Don't pay attention to the wind. Don't pay attention to the waves. The circumstances of life were precisely meant. Those problems that arise around you, that which consciousness can cling to. And more often than not, I'm saying once again, consciousness itself creates these problems, trying to distract you as personality, you see? So you have to walk steadfastly
towards your spiritual goal.
Absolutely right, especially if your goal is spiritual salvation, my friend. And if you doubt and stumble, you will drown. Why? You won't be able to walk on water.
There is another interesting point in this story, that Jesus doesn't calm, so to say, this wind or these waves.
Of course not.
He just leads Peter. And when they get on the boat together, then this wind and the raging sea calm down.
You know, my friends, this story was actually described in the Apocrypha. It was also described, let's say, in the memories about Jesus Christ by the first Christians, and the Gnostics kept these records almost until the year 1200. There were copies of the records, thank God that they were, and they still remain. Later on, when they already destroyed the Gnostics, they destroyed all those records too. The Holy Inquisition, you see. Anyway, in those records, it was exactly mentioned how Jesus Christ described this example. Only the main character there was neither Peter nor Jesus. He described it all in a completely different way, while afterwards we already read in the Holy Scriptures that Peter himself doubted, stumbled, but he had walked some. We must believe.
A part of the way, yes.
Yes, it's like a lesson for believers, you see. You know, that's why we have such a world. It seems like, yes, they established a religious organization, took all these stories, made them sort of real to strengthen people's faith and so forth. But I wonder, are Jesus' words and the story he told weaker than the fact that Jesus walked on the water? He never walked on the water. This is nonsense. Neither did others, in fact. One can break the laws of physics, but it costs too much, and it takes too much energy. It's not worth it. And certainly Peter didn't walk on water. But what had to be enhanced? Peter's authority. You know, these games, these manipulations, lead to the consequences that we live and exist nowadays in the 21st century, the same way as they did 2,000 years ago, and exactly as they did 4,000 years ago, because we humans don't change. We become worse, craftier, smarter, meaner, and more heartless. But we do not become better. Why? Because we alter the truth for the benefit of the few.